When did computing get involved in markets and capitalism? When did it cast its fate with things like destructive innovation? Was it a natural outgrowth of the fact that computing is an inventive activity? Or was it an alliance of convenience? Hi, this is David Alan Greer for the Errant hashtag. Today's episode is entitled Disruptive Computing. One phrase got me interested in the connection between markets and computing. We came to disrupt with technology, and disrupt we did. I heard that phrase while sitting in the coffee shop of a large e-commerce firm. I was waiting for an appointment when a group of coworkers, clearly from the firm, came and sat at the table immediately next to mine. They were loud and vibrant and boisterous and clearly celebrating some recent triumph. As they described their activities to each other, their voices rose and culminated in that phrase, "We came to disrupt with technology," and disrupt we did. Well, at that point, I figured they had enough disruption and decided to move. Picked up my computer and went to a distant and quieter table. It seemed to me they were confusing means and ends. Business people are successful when they make a profit, when they expand the market, when they reduce costs. To say that you're being successful because you're being disruptive is something like saying you're a successful athlete because you're aggressive. Aggression has a certain amount of advantage to an athlete, but by itself it does not put points on the board. Pondering the idea, I decided to see how computing and markets were connected, and so I opened up a browser and started looking at the IEEE library to see where computing had first begun to connect to markets and to capitalism. The initial results of my research were promising and suggested that computing had a long connection to markets and market activity. This research included a 1953 report on an IRE meeting about computers and accountants, a couple of articles from the early 1960s on the Sabre airline reservation system, and some discussions on market simulations from the 1970s and 1980s. Perhaps the most intriguing piece was from 1987, which was written by researchers from MIT. It suggested that computers would expand the use of markets, both in society at large and within companies. My appointment interrupted my research. When I was finally able to return to the IEEE electronic library, I looked at those articles closely and concluded that I was mistaken, that they really didn't indicate any kind of alliance between computing and markets, between computing and business. They were merely fairly conventional applications of computing ideas to a certain class of problems. They recommended only that computer scientists should spend more time consulting with bankers, with business people, with accountants. The only exception was that 1987 article, which argued that computing was going to lower the costs of running markets and thereby push markets into new parts of society and organizations that had relied on hierarchical decision-making. It argued that we should not expect the interconnected world, by which they mean the world in which we now live, to be merely a faster and more efficient version of 1987. Instead, it argued, we should see fundamentally new ways of creating, of distributing, and of consuming goods and services in society. If anything, the research suggested that computing had shifted only in 1997, which was the year that the world began thinking seriously about electronic commerce. Beginning at that point, we see the first technical organizations forming to consider the problems of e-commerce. We see standards organizations talking about the work they will need to do to make e-commerce effective. And we also see the rise of a technical literature that would support electronic commerce, a literature that includes topics that are now common to all of us: search, trust, privacy, recommender systems, e-payment systems, auction strategies, algorithmic game theory. All of these fields existed in some form prior to 1997, but none had the focus that they acquired that year. Yet the great shift of 1997 may not be found in the fact that computing technology chose to align itself with the market, but that the market chose to align itself with technology. In its strategy for expanding e-commerce, the United States government described a new way of business with ideas and concepts that it drew from computing technology. We need to learn what can be done to expand the use of this technology, explained the principal author of that report, because the economic prosperity we are enjoying will increasingly depend upon it. The government strategy concluded that the genius and explosive success of the Internet can be attributed in part to its decentralized nature and to its tradition of bottom-up governance. It argued that this technology would encourage entrepreneurship, expand markets and global trade, lower costs, support long-distance collaboration, give greater choice to consumers. To expand commerce, it concluded, we should not try to fit computing technology into markets, but markets into technology. Business models must evolve rapidly to keep pace with the breakneck speed of change in the technology, it explained. Unnecessary regulation of commercial activities will distort development of the electronic marketplace. Even if we did not choose to align ourselves with commerce, we cannot very easily stop commerce and the market from aligning itself with us. We are, after all, not only a disruptive field, we're an absorbent one. We have taken ideas from every part of human knowledge and made them our own. We have disrupted education, knowledge, work, organizations. If the market wanted a partner to help it in its disruptive ways, it could hardly have chosen better than to have taken us. For the Errant hashtag, this is David Allen Greer. Take care.